Hello, Happy New Year and welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. Okay, quick chicken update. Yesterday I purchased 5 more chickens. I just shut the door. So I don't know if you can see them very well, but at the back there, hopefully I'll be able to entice them out here. I've got an egg on the floor here. Now, because they're new to the run, obviously they are laying eggs in the run as well. But that's, as you can see, that's a green egg. They're laid by the cream leg bars. But what I've got is I've got 3 new Warwickshire White Stars. They lay the white eggs. They're actually laying in the nest, I'll show you in a moment. And I've also got 2 cream leg bars like I had before. The 2 Rhodies, 2 Rhode Island Reds, these ones here, Ruby and Rhubarb, they have been laying on and off. They've not laid for a couple of days because the weather being sort of going a bit cooler. But the other chickens, I don't know if you can see, it's quite dark in there, but they're the 3 Warwick White Stars and the 2 cream leg bars that I got yesterday. I bought them from a place called Warwickshire Chicken Coop, and if you go onto the internet and just search for Warwickshire Chicken Coop, they're lovely people. They've got lots of really nicely kept chickens down there. And as I say, I bought these 5 from them yesterday, so I've got my stocks back up. Now getting plenty of eggs, and they are still sort of working out the pecking order, and they'll be like this for probably I don't know, a week or so, where they're just sorting out the who's boss and all the rest of it. Now, if you've got a cocker in your chickens, they do tend to keep everything a lot calmer. And they sort of go around and sort out the hens, but because the Rhode Island Reds were here first, they have been a little bit dominant, and obviously they are slightly bigger birds as well. But the cream leg bars, this one here, now she's in the light, you can actually see it. Beautiful looking bird, and that's Shirley. We've actually named this one Shirley, but they are. Sort of settling in quite nicely. But as I say, it's going to take them a week or so to, to get introduced and not to be, they will start sort of pecking stuff. Now, that's probably why I'm getting the egg in the run, because they're all trying to get into the nest box to lay and all the rest of it, and the Rhode Island Reds are chasing them around and stuff. So, but as you can see, they are behaving at the moment. When I first put them in yesterday, normally what I do, as I've shown you in previous videos, I put an additional fence to go across here, so I'll sort of corner off a part of the run for those new chickens, so they can see each other but they don't get at each other. And I normally do that for a week or so to go into acclimatise to each other. But as I'm putting 5 chickens in with 3, and they're all pretty much fully grown, I basically just put them in yesterday. Now, I transported them in those boxes there, I don't know if you can see. Nice big boxes with holes cut in the side so they can breathe. So if you do go and buy some chickens, you need to get yourself a few boxes with some holes in like that, so you can put the chickens in and they can transport. Now, it took me around an hour to get there and an hour to get back, obviously. So they were in that box for an hour, and they just went to sleep in there, and they were perfectly fine on the way back. But that's the latest update with the chickens. Okay, so what I've done in the nesting box, because the new chickens are used to laying in boxes, what I've done is I've just brought one of the old boxes. I don't know if you can actually see, it's a bit dark, sorry. So that's the ramp that I put in last year where they lay and the eggs roll down, but what I've done is I've put an extra box back in so that they've got an actual nest to lay in. As you can see, already. I've got 2 of the white eggs. Now these are the eggs that are being laid by the Warwickshire White Stars. I don't know if there's any more in there. No, I've got 2 so far today. So so that's what I've done to the egg, to the nesting box for the new chickens. Okay, a quick update on keeping chickens. If you've got chickens in the UK, unfortunately we've got an outbreak of the H5N8 bird flu, and there's been a few sightings in the UK. There's one up in Yorkshire, and there's been one in Shropshire, at least. And basically, DEFRA and the government have put out warnings about it going about. Now, what they're asking people to do is to keep your chickens inside the run. Don't let them run outside. You know, don't let them be free range at the moment. This is in place until the 28th of February, and basically what it's to do is to stop the spread of bird flu through the country again, like we had a few years ago. Now, no doubt, you know, as soon as the weather starts to pick up and you know, the flu will go away and everybody will be fine and be able to let your chickens run about. But at the moment, what they're asking you to do is to keep your chickens inside your run. The reason for doing this is other birds, wild birds that are flying about, can sort of bring the flu to your garden or your allotment, and basically infect your chickens with it. Now, there's various things to look for. So basically what you need to be looking for is a sudden stop in egg production, which is not unusual this year. So there's other things like the wattles go slightly blue, discharge from the chicken's nose or the beak, also like a runny bottom. You know, sort of typical flu type symptoms. Also, you can see a bit of blood in the poo as well. So just look out for those things. But it has been advised, or at least requested, for the chickens to stay inside. Some people are going to sort of more extreme lengths. So as you walk in and out of your chickens, they're putting some sort of disinfectant down on the floor, so you can just put your feet in there, disinfect your shoes before you go in and out, just to stop you know, any chance of any infection. Now, as I say, DEFRA's put out some guidelines and that. So if you go on the internet and just search for bird flu H5N8 outbreak, then you know, you'll be able to see the full list of things. But I just wanted to bring your attention to the fact that you know, you are supposed to be keeping your chickens inside, and don't let them run about, because they can become infected with the bird flu. Okay, so I just want to go through a few of the seeds. Now, this is not all of them, but what I've done is I've just put a few together which I got the other day, and I'll be showing you a few more of the seeds that I'll be putting in this year. But I just thought I'd make a start with the seeds. Now, it's at this time of year when you really start to plan what you're going to do for this year. Now, whilst your plot is sort of predominantly empty, you'll be able to see what land you've got and what you want to grow, and how much room you need for each crop. And it's always worthwhile putting down on a sheet a paper, if you can't envisage it, you know, actually in the ground, just how much room you've got, how much of each of the crops you want to grow, how much you're going to eat, and so how much room you need, and then sort of work out how you're going to place it. Now, what I typically do is to start with place the tunnels where they're going to go. Then I place the potatoes and the onions. They're the crops that take up the most amount of room, because the other crops where you're just going to put 1 or 2 rows in of each one, you can kind of place them in between. Obviously, you need to consider crop rotation and how you know, how you're not going to put things in the same place as it was last year. So obviously, because I grow the brassicas in a tunnel, they obviously go where the tunnel is. So what I'm going to do is place a tunnel a little bit further down, as I explained before, and the brassicas are going to go in there, which will leave me a reasonable amount of room to put the potatoes and the onions. The onions are more likely than not going to go behind me here where the strawberries are at the moment. But what they'll then allow me to do is to see where the other things are going to sit in, you know, in the allotment. So without further ado, I'll just go through some of the seeds that I've got so far. So with the first one is parsnips. I always put in 2 rows of parsnips, and that's more than enough for me and family members to to sort of work our way through. And what I always do is put 3 different seeds in the ground, i.e. 3 different types of seeds. Now what I've got here is, I always grow this one. This is Parsnip Gladiator F1. I don't normally get them from Johnson's, so there's the seed packet. I don't normally get them from Johnson's. I normally get these from different seed distributor, but this year I thought I'd try these new Johnson seeds. And at £2.25, it's not a bad price really. So these are Parsnip Gladiator F1, and so that's the first type of parsnip I've put in. This next one is Parsnip Harrow Crown. Sorry, Hollow Crown. If you can see that, they're from Country Value seeds. Now I used these last year and the year before, and they are really good quality. You don't get so many seeds. There's 400 seeds in there, which sounds a lot, but when you put in parsnips down, you soon get through 400 seeds over 2 rows. So what I'll do is I'll set those and these seeds in the same row. I will get a third type. It'll either be Albion, which is one that always grows well in the garden. Also, I may well have there's one called White Arrow or something like that, which I normally put in as well. So one of those 2 I'll get in the next few weeks, ready to sow. But we're a while off sowing parsnips anyway. You don't sow parsnips for another 3 or 4 months yet, so there's plenty of time to get those seeds. But now the garden centres are putting out the new seeds, this is a really good time to get some seed from last year, which will be cheaper, or to get in there and get the new seeds for this year. So that's the parsnip so far. I will be growing a reasonable amount of calabrese this year. So this is the broccoli. This is also from Johnson's. Now this is called calabrese Samson F1. The thing you need to do with F1 is just a quick tip. With F1 varieties, all of the plants will be identical, so they will pretty much all come to fruition at the same time. So all of the florets will form at the same time. So what you need to do, if you've got an F1 type seed, what I would suggest you do is grow some, and then a couple of weeks later grow some more, a couple of weeks later grow some more, and so you've got a succession of them coming. The reason being is if you put all of these seeds in one go, what will happen is all the plants will grow together, and because they're F1 hybrids, they're all identical. So what should happen is if you grow them at the same time and put them in the same ground, and obviously you're going to be watering them the same and all the rest of it, all the conditions are going to be the same, what you will get is them all coming in one go. So you'll have lots of calabrese all in one go. You're not going to be able to eat them all in time unless you give loads away. So what I suggest you do is do them in 2 or possibly 3 batches, so you've got some succession coming. If it's an F1, if it's a normal breed, so it's not an F1, you can just put them all in and away you go. But this year I thought I'd try the Samson F1 hybrid, which looks quite a nice nice variety to try. Not done that one before, so okay. Also from Country Value, I've got some butternut squash seeds, and this is butternut butterfly F1. So they're the butternut squash seeds that I'm going to be putting in. I did really well with butternut squashes last year. I had a bumper crop last year. I mean, the butternut squashes were about this long. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. They were about 2 foot or more long. And what I've actually done is I've still got 2 in the house which are still whole. The others, what I've done is I've cut them up into sort of roastable sections, and I've frozen them in the freezer, because what I can do is just take them out of the freezer, put them on a baking tray with a bit of oil, and then roast them up and sort of do it that way. But don't be worried if they grow too big. But there's not many seeds in there. I think there's 8 seeds in there, which is more than enough. I typically grow 4 plants. Last year I actually grew I think there was 4 plants last year, in fact, and that was more than enough for me. Next are Swede, and this is Best of All, so that's also from Country Value seeds. I typically put one variety of Swede in, but that's the variety I'm going to be putting in that this year because it's the best of all. Perfect 3 beetroot, I'm going to try this year. Now this is also from Country Value, if you can see that. And with a packet of beetroot, you get loads. There's 200 seeds in there, and because the beetroot seeds are quite large, so you can, they're easily spread out. Things like Swedes are brassica, so the seeds for swede are really small little black balls, and they're quite difficult to sort of set, so you need loads of them. There's 300 seeds in there, so that'll probably do. I'll probably get a row out of them, to be honest with you. So if I want to put 2 rows in, I'll probably need to get another packet. I'll probably get a different variety. But with beetroot, because the seeds are bigger, they're easy to set. They're much bigger. They look like small pieces of cork. But anyway, so that's beetroot, perfect 3. Why it's called perfect 3, I don't know. I don't know if there's 3 different types in there. But anyway, that's one of the beetroots I'm going to be putting in. I've got some other beetroot seeds. And the one thing that I want to do well on this year is spinach. We eat a lot of spinach in the house, and spinach is a really good vegetable to eat. Apart from the fact you get a really long season, because you can sow it early, and then it'll particularly spinach beet, which is what I grow. And what it'll do is it'll grow all through the year. As soon as it gets going, it'll grow all through the year, and as soon as it starts to grow, you can start pulling at the leaves. And then it'll grow all the way up to the end of the year. It'll go through the winter, which it won't die off as such, but it'll stop growing, so you don't want to pick too much of it. Over the winter it'll stop growing, and then in the spring what you get is a new flourish of leaves, and you can pick them, which is what I'm just about to start doing with mine. You can pick them again right the way up to probably the end of February into March, and then at that point they'll run to seed, at which point you take them out and put your new rows in. So spinach is a really good vegetable, because it goes with so many dishes anyway, plus it's packed full of nutrients and iron and everything, but it's one of them vegetables that you can just plant a row of it, or a patch of it, and it'll just keep coming and just keep pulling at it, and it'll just keep growing back. So it's a really good vegetable. Now, last year and the year before weren't very good years, largely down to possibly me, to be honest with you. I don't think I watered them well when they were little, when they were young, and the plants didn't fully recover from that. In years gone by, I've had fantastic crops of spinach. I always grow spinach beet, because if you grow actual spinach, that bolts really easily. In other words, if it has a dry season, a dry period, and you don't water it, it'll just run to seed straight away. So you can put the seed in, and then if you don't water it pretty much every day, it will send up seed shoots, and then the plant will just die off. With spinach beet, it's not actually a spinach, it's more of a beet, so it's the same thing as beetroot. So these two seeds are going to be almost the same to look at, but they will keep growing, and they are quite forgiving. So even if they do run dry, really they'll continue to grow. As soon as the plant's established, you can pretty much leave it to its own devices, and it'll carry on growing for you. So if you're somebody who doesn't go up to your allotment every day to water, this is most certainly the best solution for you if you like spinach. Now, this variety is called perennial spinach, and it's spinach beet. Now, this comes highly recommended from me. I've bought the same variety from a number of different seed suppliers. Now, you get loads of seeds. There's 250 seeds in there. Again, these are large seeds, so you can spread them out quite easily. And you just put them sort of an inch or so apart in the row, and then you get a nice thick row. What I typically do is plant 2 rows very close together, about 10 inches apart, and so it ends up being one big row, if you like. And that will supply you with spinach right up until next sort of February, March time. So it's a really good cropper. Within 8 weeks you can crop it, and then you can crop it all the way through the year, apart from the winter, right up until this time next year pretty much. So comes highly recommended. So those are the seeds so far. I will give you another couple of updates in the next few weeks with other things I'll be growing this year, but that's the first batch of seeds to show you. Okay, so I'm just going to go through some of the comments and questions that have come over in the past 2 or 3 weeks. The first one comes from a number of people. Mrs. V. Sala, George Gibson, Petals on the Paving Slab, and Allotment Upcycling have all sort of passed comment about the costs and stuff, amongst others. But the one thing that did sort of occur to me, and I was talking to a guy that I work with, he's from Italy, and he was saying how all the fruit and vegetable that he buys in the UK is basically tasteless compared to what he gets in Italy. And I've got to admit, when I eat strawberries from a supermarket, you know, the readily available strawberries that you get from supermarkets and stuff like that, they just don't taste of strawberry at all. And also tomatoes that you buy from a shop have almost no taste at all. And I was explaining to him that I grow my own vegetables, and it suddenly occurred to me that's one of the main reasons why I like growing my own vegetables, because if you grow your own, the fact that the vegetables come straight off the garden, you know, the tomato, the fruits and the vegetables, when they come straight off the garden, they taste better, they're fresher, so therefore they're a lot more healthy. Obviously, if you pick any fruit or vegetable within a matter of hours, the vitamins and the goodness that's in there is sort of deteriorating. And quite often when I eat vegetables and fruit, it's either straight off the plant or within an hour or so we've taken it off the plant, and that's so much more sort of healthy for you, because you've got all the vitamins and all the the goodness in there. Whereas if you buy things from a shop, it may well have been on the shelf for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6 days, and what percentage of the vitamins and minerals and that are still existing in that vegetable is questionable. And I guess it depends on sort of what type of vegetable and that, but and fruit. But most certainly the strawberries that I harvest from the patch behind me here, and the tomatoes and the cucumbers taste so much better than the ones that you can buy in the shops, which is another really good reason for growing your own vegetables and fruit. Next comment comes from Allotment Upcycling, Tina and Jason down south, and they were saying another way to save money on your allotments is to swap plants and seeds with your fellow allotment gardeners and that, because if when you buy a packet of seeds, typically you don't need all of the plants that you produce or all of the seeds that you got on that packet. So if you grow a load of something and then one of your neighbours grows a load of something else, you can then sort of swap with each other, and then get a good variety of vegetables for yourself. And also it's nice to do that as well. And I do swap vegetables with other people as well. I always give anything over to my neighbours that that I don't need, and vice versa, they give me things as well. Belinda Carpenter also put setup costs and equipment, soil amendments and fruit trees are things that she's bought this year. It's her first year, and she was saying that, the initial year of when you first start off can be quite expensive, because you're having to buy tools for digging and all that kind of stuff. And also when you first get an allotment, you typically want to get it sorted out and buy all the things. And obviously if the soil's no good, if you've got sort of if your soil's heavy or whatever, you need to buy some stuff to put in there to to get it to a reasonable condition so you can start to grow things, and that can be quite expensive. And also, as she said, she's bought fruit trees as well this year, so that can be a sort of big on cost. But the one thing that I would say, the one sort of comment I did want to say to Belinda was, if you're buying fruit trees, or if you're putting soil amendments in, you're improving the soil and stuff, you've got to see that as an investment. And yes, it is an on cost for the first year, but you're going to reap the benefits of that for a number of years to come. Most certainly with fruit trees, fruit trees can last up to 20, 30, 40 years. And any amendments that you put into the soil is most certainly an investment for the future. So you need to kind of look at it like that. And sometimes you do need to fork out and buy certain things to get things to work properly. But as I say, you need to look at it as an investment. Michael Brotherton put down, do you count for any produce that you give away? Yes, I do. I do tend to grow, anybody that grows the amount of stuff that I grow. Obviously some things you can store, potatoes and onions and stuff like that I can store, but I do give a reasonable amount of it away. What I always tend to do is grow about 20 to 25% more than I actually need, So if the crop is bad, if the yield isn't particularly good for that year, I've still got plenty to go at. I've still got enough for me and family. If everything goes to plan and I end up getting 20-25% more than I would do normally, then that 20-25% I'll give away to people or whatever. And I do typically grow too many potatoes and too many onions because I give them away every year anyway to friends and family. But yeah, I do typically grow a bit more than I plan to eat, if you like. Then I've always got stuff to give away to people. But yeah, I do account for that in there, because basically as I'm picking it or digging it up or whatever, I always wait at that point, and then that all goes into the calculation of how much it's worth, etc. Richard Sydenham was talking about green manure. It's one thing I've never done, to be honest with you. A lot of my neighbour next to me, he's got mustard on where he had his potatoes this year. And there's a guy over the way as well. He uses green manure quite a lot. I've never bothered, because I've always thought, because I've got so much chicken manure, or normally I've got chicken manure that goes as the garden. I've never really needed to do it. But the point that Richard made, and it's a very valid point. If you grow green manure in the winter, so basically, for those who don't know what green manure is, what you do is, as soon as you've cropped a piece of ground, so you've grown potatoes in there or whatever, you dig all of those potatoes out, and then the ground is then bare. What you then do is you sow another plant onto that ground, not necessarily that you're going to eat. So like mustard, for example, or there's a 5 seed mix that you can put down. And what you do is you let that plant grow till it gets to about a foot high, and then what you do is you dig it in. And what that actually does is that plant takes nitrogen from the air and all the rest of it, and puts goodness into the soil. And when you're digging it in, what it actually does is it puts goodness back into the soil and fibre and everything. So when you're coming to the next spring and you start to put your actual vegetables in, the ground is in a lot better condition than it was if it had been left bare over the winter. There are other benefits as well, that if you grow green manure, so that the soil is never bare effectively. So as soon as you've taken one crop out, you've sowed another one. Things like mycorrhizal fungi and stuff like that that's in the ground will survive a lot better if there's some plants in that ground. Obviously, mycorrhizal fungi depends on plants growing in the ground. If there's no plants, the mycorrhizal fungi will die in the ground. So there's all sorts of benefits from growing stuff in the garden all the time. So so green manure is good towards that as well. Stephen Simpson, I just want to put a comment down. I watched the video back. This is when I was talking about different chicken breeds that I've had, and I was saying that if you get a Cuckoo Orpington cockerel, they don't crow like normal chickens, normal cockerels. They've got more of a cuckoo type sound, and they're quite a gentle bird. So if you like a cockerel, but you're in an area where crowing cockerels would be a problem, I suggested Cuckoo Orpington. Now, when I said it on the video, it sounded more like Cuckoo Warpington, and I'm sorry for my pronunciation, but it's Orpington. And if you go on the internet, try www.keith-orps.co.uk. That's a gentleman who actually breeds them in the UK. But yeah, sorry about that. It's actually Cuckoo Orpington. Next comment comes from Richard Sydenham again. And he was saying that the kale, I showed you a quick clip at the back end of last year where the kale's throwing little shoots out from the side. And he was saying if you take them shoots off and put them into water, they'll actually root and you can grow more plants from there. And so that was, I've never tried that before. I know people who've done that with tomato plants and other stuff like that, but you can get shoots off plants that you wouldn't normally as a cut-in. Put that in and it'll actually grow again as another plant, and then that'll grow on and sort of develop further. Robert Evans was asking me about the tunnel framework, and yes, there's a number of videos of me kind of this time last year building that tunnel, and basically what it is it's Harrison fence panels, and I took them apart and used the pipe work off them, because it's strong steel, so it's strong and it's light. So I can lift the tunnel up and move it. So that's why I didn't use scaffolding pipe. I have used scaffolding pipe in the past for other things, and scaffolding pipe is really heavy and difficult to move about. Because I want to move the tunnel up and down the allotment, so I can rotate the crops. What I did is I grouted out the pipe work off Harrison fence panels, so I could do that. But I have put a link on the onto your comment to show you where they were from. But if you look back in January last year, you'll see, I think there's 6 videos there showing me putting the framework together. And the last comment comes from the Grumpy Gardener, and he was saying there's got some broccoli and it's not come to fruition. It hasn't formed any florets yet, but it is growing quite well. Don't worry. The things with brassicas are one plant which will overwinter. Things like kale will go through the winter. Purple sprouting broccoli is typically grown during the winter, and will fruit again in the spring. But sorry, will form the florets in the spring. So leave the plants where they are. They will overwinter, and then all being well in the spring, what you will get is the florets forming, all being well. Now, people have done this. I don't know if you can hear that. Can you hear that noise? I've got frogs in the greenhouse and they're making a funny warbling noise at the moment. But yeah, if you leave the broccoli in the ground, they should form florets in the spring, but they won't be particularly big. Now, what you can do is that the typical growing season for broccoli is around 12 to 16 weeks. So you plant the seeds, and then 12 to 16 weeks later, what you should have is a fully formed plant with a floret on it. So what you can do is plant early, because you can grow brassicas in cooler conditions. Grow the seeds early, and then put them in the ground, and then you will again get an early crop. That's another way of doing it. But if you leave your plants in, that's what I would do. Leave your plants in the ground, and then they should form florets in the spring, and it'll give you an early crop. So I hope this episode was of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions you've got below, and I'll always get back to you. And I'll see you in the next episode of Jim's Love and Garden.